Moving into a new home is always an adventure filled with excitement and possibilities. But what happens when the thrill of a fresh start is overshadowed by something unseen? In this video, we dive into the chilling tale of a young woman who discovers that her affordable apartment comes with a cost, an unsettling presence that turns her dream into a nightmare. Meet Sarah, a bright-eyed young woman thrilled to have found the perfect place to call home. But as she settles in, she begins to notice small things out of place and soon realizes she's not alone. Have you ever felt like you weren't alone in your own home? Join us as we uncover the mystery of the unseen roommate. Sarah's new apartment is a curious blend of charm and neglect. The walls, painted a faded mint green, are adorned with peeling wallpaper, revealing glimpses of the past beneath. Vintage light fixtures hang from the ceiling, casting warm, flickering shadows that dance along the walls. It has character, perhaps too much of it, but Sarah is captivated by its unique personality. After all, a little quirkiness adds to the charm, right? As she steps inside, the atmosphere shifts. The air feels heavy, and a soft, eerie silence envelops her. Even the usual sounds of the city outside seem muted, as if the apartment is holding its breath. It's not the bustling energy she expected. Instead, an unsettling stillness blankets the rooms. Sarah shakes off the sensation, attributing it to the excitement of moving into her new space. With each box she unpacks, she envisions the life she'll create here. Dinner parties with friends, quiet evenings with a book, and memories waiting to be made. Yet, amidst her enthusiasm, an odd feeling lingers. It's a subtle twinge at the back of her mind, a whisper that something isn't quite right. As she unpacks her belongings, she can't shake the sensation of being watched. Sarah pushes the thought aside and continues to arrange her furniture, placing her favorite lamp in the corner, hoping to bring some warmth to the room. But as she steps back to admire her work, a cold draft sweeps through, making her shiver. She glances toward the window, half expecting to see it ajar, but it's tightly shut. The draft is a mystery, and so is the growing sense of unease that accompanies her every move. Determined not to let her imagination get the best of her, Sarah focuses on the task at hand. She hangs pictures on the walls, smiling friends, beautiful landscapes, and tries to create a sanctuary. Yet, every now and then, she catches a glimpse of movement from the corner of her eye, only to find nothing there. Each time her heart races, and she pushes herself to carry on, convincing herself it's just her nerves. In the kitchen, she arranges her plates and cups, the clinking sounds echoing against the walls. But the pleasant rhythm is soon interrupted by a low creak from the hallway. Sarah pauses, a fork frozen mid-air, her breath catching in her throat. She looks toward the hallway, but the shadows remain still, unyielding. It's just an old building, she reassures herself, but the words feel hollow. As night falls, the dim lighting transforms the apartment into an entirely different entity. Shadows stretch across the walls, creating shapes that seem to morph and twist. The eerie silence returns, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards. It's the kind of quiet that heightens every sound, making her feel acutely aware of her surroundings. Every whisper of the wind outside feels like a presence in the room. Despite her discomfort, Sarah tells herself it's just the adjustment to a new place. She's determined to make this her home. But as she crawls into bed that night, the sheets pulled tight around her, the unsettling feeling creeps back in. A shiver runs down her spine, and she can't shake the sensation that she isn't alone. The shadows seem to watch her as she drifts off, her heart racing with uncertainty. That night, Sarah falls into a deep sleep, her dreams filled with hopes of new beginnings. But as the clock strikes midnight, something changes in the apartment. A faint flicker breaks the silence. The living room light blinks twice, then goes dark. For a moment, everything is still. The light flickers once more, illuminating the room in brief bursts. Sarah stirs in her sleep, sensing something is off. Suddenly, the light turns on fully, bathing the room in a bright glow. She sits up, her heart racing, staring at the ceiling. Was that the wind? She wonders, pushing herself to brush it off. It must be faulty wiring or something. As she gets out of bed, she tries to convince herself it's just her imagination playing tricks. But the flickering light is unnerving. She walks into the living room, pausing at the doorway. The soft glow feels both welcoming and frightening. She glances at the light switch, wondering if she accidentally bumped it earlier. With each step she takes, the floorboards creak beneath her feet, heightening the suspense. She flicks the light switch off and back on, but nothing happens. The bulb remains bright, almost taunting her. Okay, this is getting weird, she thinks, feeling a mix of confusion and concern. Trying to shake off the fear, Sarah takes a deep breath and steps back into the kitchen, hoping a glass of water will calm her nerves. But as she pours the water, she hears the sound of a faint whisper behind her. She turns quickly, but there's nothing there. The hairs on the back of her neck stand up and she glances at the living room again, her heart pounding. I'm just tired, she tells herself, pouring the water into a glass. But the flickering lights and the strange noises weigh heavily on her mind. As she takes a sip, the lights flicker again, brighter this time, casting long shadows that seem to reach for her. It's as if the apartment is alive and it's watching her. Feeling a chill run down her spine, Sarah decides to go back to bed. She tries to shake off the weird feeling, but her mind races. The flickering lights play on repeat in her head as she crawls under the covers, pulling them tightly around her. She whispers to herself, it's just an old building, but deep down she knows something isn't right. Days pass, but the unsettling feeling in the apartment doesn't fade. Sarah tries to settle into her routine, but strange things keep happening. One morning, she opens the fridge to grab her favorite yogurt, only to find it missing. I could have sworn I bought two, she mutters, shaking her head in disbelief. She checks the other shelves, but the yogurt is nowhere to be found. Her brow furrows as she scans the fridge for answers. Had she eaten it without remembering? But that wasn't like her. Still, she brushes it off, chalking it up to forgetfulness. It must have gone bad, she tells herself, trying to convince her racing thoughts. Yet, as she prepares breakfast, a sense of unease creeps back in, lurking just beneath the surface. As night falls, the atmosphere thickens again. The dim light casts long shadows across the walls, making every creak and whisper feel amplified. Sarah tries to distract herself with her book, but the sounds around her grow louder, soft thuds and faint rustling echoing through the apartment. Each sound makes her heart race faster. It's just the building settling, she tells herself, but the shadows seem to shift with each noise. Later that evening, as Sarah cleans up after dinner, she hears a quiet rustling from the kitchen. She glances over, her heart pounding in her chest. The sound continues, and she feels a chill run down her spine. It's just the wind, she reassures herself, though the windows are all shut tight. But when she turns back to the counter, she notices a box of cereal slightly ajar. Did she leave it open? Every little detail starts to add up, feeding her anxiety. She thinks back to the missing yogurt, the strange noises, and the flickering lights. It's hard to ignore the feeling that something or someone else is in the apartment with her. But Sarah pushes the thought aside, refusing to let fear control her life. I'm just being paranoid, she insists, hoping to regain some sense of normalcy. That night, as she lies in bed, Sarah listens closely. Every creak of the floorboards feels louder than before. The quiet of the apartment now feels like a weight pressing down on her chest. She closes her eyes, trying to sleep, but the thoughts keep circling. What if it's just her imagination? What if she's not alone? Despite her best efforts, she can't shake the growing tension in the air. She sits up in bed, glancing around the room. Shadows flicker across the walls, and the darkness seems to deepen. The hairs on her arms stand on end as she tries to convince herself it's just her imagination again. But the unease wraps around her like a cold blanket, whispering that something isn't right. With every strange occurrence, her heart pounds a little harder, and the feeling of being watched returns, stronger than before. After several nights of strange occurrences, Sarah decides she can no longer ignore the feeling that something is wrong in her apartment. She sits down at her laptop, determined to find answers. With each click, she searches for stories of hauntings and paranormal activity, hoping to find something that explains her experiences. As she scrolls through the results, Sarah's heart races. She clicks on various articles about haunted places, the eerie tales gripping her attention. Ghostly whispers, flickering lights, and missing items. She reads about all the things that have happened to others. Each story feels strangely familiar, feeding her growing unease. Later that week, Sarah meets her friend Jessica for coffee, hoping to share her experiences. As they sit at a cozy cafe, Sarah leans in, her voice barely above a whisper. Jess, I think my apartment might be haunted. Strange things keep happening. Jessica laughs lightly, shaking her head. You've been watching too many scary movies, she replies, brushing off Sarah's fears. It's probably just your imagination. But Jessica continues, you know, I heard some urban legends about that building. They say a woman lived there years ago and disappeared without a trace. People claim to hear her crying at night. Sarah feels a chill run down her spine. What? Why didn't you tell me this sooner? She asks, her voice shaky. Jessica shrugs, still not taking it seriously. I don't know. Maybe because I thought it was just a rumor. You're probably just tired, Sarah. Back at her apartment, Sarah dives into research once more. She pulls up old news articles, her eyes scanning the pages for any mention of the building. The stories grow darker as she reads about disappearances, strange sounds, and unexplained events. The hairs on the back of her neck rise as she discovers a pattern of unsettling reports over the years. With each article, her heart sinks further. She clicks through an online forum where others recount their own eerie experiences in the same building. Ghostly figures, lights turning on by themselves, and food disappearing. Each post sends a wave of dread through Sarah. I'm not alone in this, she thinks, feeling a mix of fear and validation. The unsettling feeling in her gut grows stronger as she realizes her apartment holds a history she never wanted to uncover. Surrounded by the evidence of the past, Sarah's resolve hardens. She can no longer deny that something is wrong. As she looks around her apartment, the flickering lights and strange noises take on a new meaning. What was once just a quirky old building now feels like a prison haunted by secrets. With her heart pounding, she knows she must confront whatever is hiding in the shadows. After hours of digging through articles and online stories, Sarah stumbles upon something that makes her heart stop. The story of a woman, Emily Barnes, who once lived in the very apartment Sarah now calls home. Emily disappeared under mysterious circumstances almost 10 years ago, and no one has heard from her since. Her belongings were found neatly in place, just as Sarah had discovered when she first moved in. But her sudden disappearance remains a chilling mystery. Sarah reads on, her breath catching in her throat. Emily was reportedly a quiet, kind woman who kept to herself. But the article hints at something darker. Emily had been going through personal struggles, including a bitter breakup and rumors of depression. The neighbors had often heard her crying late at night, and some claimed that, in her final days, they saw strange lights flickering in her apartment. The same lights Sarah has been seeing. The truth hits Sarah all at once. The strange occurrences, the feeling of being watched, the disappearing food. Emily's unresolved pain and sorrow seem to linger in the apartment, as if she's still searching for something, unable to move on. The cold draft, the flickering lights, the missing items. It was never just faulty wiring or Sarah's imagination. Emily has been here all along. Emily's story is one of sadness and isolation. Her life in the apartment ended abruptly, but her presence remained, tied to the space by the weight of her unresolved trauma. Sarah feels a pang of sympathy for the woman who had lived in this apartment before her. Emily's unfinished story haunts every corner of the home, waiting for someone to understand. Fear rushes through Sarah, but it's mixed with something else, sympathy. Emily wasn't trying to scare her. She was simply there, lost and forgotten. A woman whose life ended in sadness, reaching out in small, desperate ways. Sarah's mind races as she wonders if there's anything she can do to help Emily find peace. For the first time, she doesn't feel threatened, but a deep sense of responsibility settles in her chest. What do you want? Sarah whispers into the dimly lit room, her voice shaky but steady. The flickering light above her seems to respond, casting long shadows across the walls. She knows she must confront the spirit that shares her home, but the fear of what lies ahead grips her. Is there a way to help Emily move on, or will this haunting continue, forever unresolved? With the truth about Emily's tragic story weighing on her, Sarah knows she can't continue living in fear. She must make a choice, confront the spirit, or learn to coexist with the echoes of the past. Every strange occurrence, every flickering light, and every missing item has been a cry for attention, a call for help from someone who never had closure. Emily, Sarah says, her voice calm but steady. I know you're here. I'm not afraid anymore. I want to help you. The room feels colder, but Sarah stands her ground. The lights flicker one last time, then settle into a soft, steady glow. For the first time in weeks, the apartment feels calm, peaceful even. It's as if Emily has finally been heard. Over the next few days, the strange occurrences stop. No more flickering lights, no more whispers in the night. Sarah feels a sense of peace in the apartment, as though Emily's spirit has found some kind of resolution. The apartment is still quiet, but now the silence feels different, lighter, less oppressive. Sarah knows that Emily's presence will always linger here, but it's no longer something to fear. In the end, Sarah makes the decision to leave. The apartment holds too many memories now, both hers and Emily's. She realizes that although she helped bring peace to Emily, she needs a fresh start. As she closes the door behind her, Sarah feels a strange sense of closure herself. The apartment may be quiet now, but the weight of the past will always be there. Sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. It lingers in the quiet spaces, waiting for someone to listen, waiting for someone to remember. And sometimes, all it takes is a single moment of recognition to bring peace, or to awaken something far darker. Sarah's story reminds us that sometimes the past doesn't just fade away. It lingers, waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. But what about you? Have you ever felt like you weren't alone in your own home? Experienced strange sounds, flickering lights, or something you just couldn't explain? If you've had any paranormal experiences, we'd love to hear your stories. Drop a comment below and share your eerie encounters with us. Who knows? Your story might just be the inspiration for our next video. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this spooky tale, don't forget to give this video a like and hit that subscribe button for more chilling stories just like this one. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. We've got plenty more ghostly mysteries coming your way. And remember, sometimes the things we can't see are the ones we should fear the most. See you in the next one.